Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today I thought we'd have a look at the live action movie adaptation of Fist of the North Star, made back in 1995 and directed by Tony Randel, whose previous credits include Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, of all things. Now when I think about this movie, the live action adaptation of Fist of the North Star, all I think about is Sci-Fi Channel. This film has Sci-Fi Channel running through its blood and its veins. It is a quintessential, like, it's such a Sci-Fi Channel movie, and that's actually where I first saw the film. I mean, it was made in 95. I saw it around, must have been 99 time, was when I saw it, because I remember it was on a Saturday night. I was looking forward to it. I was like, Fist of the North Star, like, is on tonight, and I really wanted to see it. I remember it because I was playing Dreamcast at the time, and I think that was when 99 was the year Dreamcast come out. I could be wrong. I think it came out, was it the previous year in Japan? Sort of Western got it 99 time. Anyway, I remember playing Dreamcast at the time, and it was a Saturday, and I was like, I was so looking forward to this movie. Of course, this was like a direct-to-video release, and we have some stars in this film. We got Gary Daniels as Kenshiro, we have Malcolm McDowell, we have Chris Penn, we have Clint Howard, we have Dante Basco, most names like notably for playing Rufio in Steven Spielberg's Hook. Now, say what you will about this film. Say it's a train wreck, say it's bad, say it's crappy, whatever you want to say about it. The fact is, right, they gave it a go, right? The filmmakers gave it a go. The fact they even had the balls to do a Fist of the North Star live action movie is a testament to their balls, okay? Like, that you have to sort of give them not praise, but you have to just say, fair enough, right? You gave it a go. The fact they were even willing to give it a go is not only, like I say, a testament to their balls and sort of the fact they were even sort of bold and brave enough to give it a go, but it's a real testament as well to the legacy and the impact of Fist of the North Star and why it's such a huge franchise and still is to this day. And that's why, it's one of them films I just had to check out, even going back way back when. I just had to see this film to see if it was any good, to see if it lived up to sort of, the anime and the series and whatever, and the manga and, all these things. The film largely adapts the first story arc from the manga, and what is interesting is that in the Japanese dub of this movie, it's actually the voice actors from the anime that give voiceovers to their respective characters, so the people that voice the anime characters actually voice their characters in this movie as well. Now, this film is very much one of them. It's a quintessential sort of so bad it's good movies. I think it definitely falls into that sort of category in terms of how it sort of comes across and what it's doing. But again, I'm not going to break its balls too much. I'm not going to go too hard on this film because, like I say, they gave it a go, and you have to give them, like I say, not praise, but you just have to just say, okay, you had a shot. You knew it wasn't going to necessarily be great. You knew it's not going to make everybody happy. And so I'm not going to go too hard on it. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot wrong with this movie. It is a bad movie. But I'm going to try and cut it a tiny bit of slack. I'd say huge Fist of the North Star fan, and was a huge Gary Daniels fan, largely thanks to sort of Jackie Chan, City Hunter by Wong Jing. But I remember being quite hyped for this, and it was around the time that it was around this time that sort of Western filmmakers were adapting some manga. We also had sort of the Crime-Free Man movie with Mark Dacascos, and I think, if I recall, that come out. That I will review that soon, but I think Crime-Free Man actually came out the same year as this film as well. I think that was 95 as well. So it seemed like adapting manga was sort of the in thing to do at this point. It's very much the in vogue thing to do. So is Fist of the North Star 95 live action? Is the movie any good? No. it's not. It's not any good. But like I say, the fact they tried, the fact they were willing to give it a go, the fact they thought they could adapt it, and the fact they thought obviously they might be able to get, be able to attract the fan base and attract new fans, Fist of the North Star, you have to cut them a tiny, not a lot, but a tiny bit of slack. Yes, I mean, if you're a hardcore Fist of the North Star fan, you might think this is the worst thing you've ever seen. Like, you might think it is complete and utter travesty. You say, because they sort of take the basic plot outline and characters, but they don't follow it sort of beat for beat. Characters are sort of changed, names are sort of changed, and God knows what, but it's one of them movies. I don't think it's sort of half as bad as what it could have been, if that makes sense. I think it could have been a lot worse. It's still bad, but I think it could have been a lot worse. It isn't a good movie, and also, don't you think a larger, more up-to-date sort of live-action remake of Fist of the North Star is so overdue at this point? Like, it's beyond overdue. Unfortunately, where Fist of the North Star is absolutely epic in nature, the film looks rather cheap. It does look cheap, on the cheap side. As much as I love Gary Daniels as well, when he speaks, he just doesn't, unfortunately, seem to have Kenshiro, that aura of like Kenshiro going on. And when he speaks, he's just too soft-spoken. He is just way too soft-spoken. Chris Penn, however, seems to be having an absolute blast as Jackal. Like, he seems to be having the time of his life in this movie. All the sets, as I say, seem very restricted, cheap and confined. It's not a great movie, but the fact they tried, the fact it could have been a lot worse, the fact it's a real testament to the legacy of Fist of the North Star and just, what a great franchise it is. It's not a complete train wreck, but it's a wreck nonetheless. So it's one of them films, actually thinking about it, if you're younger and you're new to Fist of the North Star, you have no idea what it's about, this is probably the kind of film, if you watch it, you might actually help somebody get into Fist of the North Star. But I think if you're watching this as like a fan, if you are a seasoned fan already, you're going to find this is just, what are you doing? Like, it's one of them kind of films. So although the film, talking of the music here just quickly as well, although the film it maybe should have had like a sort of a techno upbeat soundtrack, sort of keep with that sort of like the violence and the fights and things like that. In terms of the score and the music, it does have quite sort of an epic soundtrack going on, which may not be what you sort of associate with Fist of the North Star, but it fits in with the film sort of okay as sort of a live action, because they do try and go for sort of an epic sort of film, but unfortunately it just, everything feels so restricted and confined, whether that's because of the budget but it just feels cheap. It feels very sort of, it was made on like a shoestring budget. They didn't have the money and the resources to do anything largely grand, so it's one of them films you can sort of see they're sort of trying to do their best with what they've got. So the world has gone to chaos. We learn the sign of the Southern Cross was once a sign of a school of martial arts, and the North Star symbol is the symbol that opposes it. We meet Kenshiro, who is wandering on the wasteland, and Malcolm McDowell, his father, who Shin comes to visit and he kills Malcolm McDowell's character, played by Costas Mandylor is how I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. I could probably said it wrong. But yeah, he plays Shin. And apparently North Star and Southern Cross must never fight. Basically, Southern Cross is the opposing force and they are bad, and they're led by Shin. We meet Bat, played by Dante Basco, in Paradise Valley, and then some hoodlums come riding in, which includes Ron Howard's brother Clint, and Chris Penn. So Kenshiro takes shelter, has a nightmare of what Shin did to him. He wakes up in the morning, some bandits around, and Kenshiro sort of busts one of their jaws. They do try and go for that. They do try and give some Fist of the North Star sort of violence and things like that, but they don't sort of go overboard with it here. I say bust one of their jaws. All the fighting is done very, very up close. Usually from one angle, which is a real shame. It's nothing wrong with the fight in itself. It's just the way it's shot that is just unfortunately which lets it down. When directing a film is one thing. That's a skill and an art in itself. But when you're directing a martial arts sequence, a fight sequence, there's things to learn here. It's not just, okay, put a camera on it. And it's very clear to me, watching the fights in this film, this is a guy who doesn't have a clue how to shoot a fight sequence. I'm not taking anything away from Gary Daniels. I'm not taking anything away from the fights themselves. But I do have a bone to pick with the way they're shot. And that if you're just thinking, well, I'll just put a camera on it, I'll just shoot it from that angle and that's fine, and we'll shoot it really up close so we can't even see kicks and things like that. Silly. Like, it's very clear this is a guy who does not know how to shoot a fight sequence. As I say, all way too up close. And he, like Gary Daniels, Kenshiro says the classic line, "You are already dead," which makes the guy's head explode. And the effects, by and large, to be fair, are not bad. They're not, it's somewhat laughable, I would say, but they're not that bad. As I say, you have Shin, he fights one of these guys he is not happy with in a brief little fight. He makes sort of his chest explode, which again, it doesn't look bad. For the time, the budget, for, like I say, a direct-to-video release, it's passable. It's passable. So Kenshiro meets Bat and Lin. He cures her blindness, and then he just wanders off again. Shin has this girl, Julia, who is like Kenshiro's sort of main love interest, and he is like, I'm building a new future for you. And it's worth mentioning, like with Malcolm McDowell, they make a big point that Malcolm McDowell's in the movie, right? Malcolm McDowell. He's in it at the start, and then basically he just turns to narrator. After he's killed, he's just sort of the narrator, and even then it's sort of seldomly you hear his voice. And then he sort of turns up in like zombie mummy form, like via puppet. He comes out of the ground and says to Kenshiro that he is now Fist of the North Star. If nothing else, the movie is ambitious. You can say it is ambitious, I think, and for the time, the budget, like I say, not going to try and go too hard on it. And also, I don't know what people were expecting from this. I mean, I was hyped for it. I was looking forward to it, but I wasn't expecting anything groundbreaking like that. I thought, there's no way it's going to live up to the anime. There's no way it's going to live up to the manga. It's going to be whatever it is. I was disappointed, granted, but like I say, they gave it, like I keep saying, they gave it a go. The fact they wanted to make a film with this, like I say, is a true testament to Fist of the North Star. So everything goes orange. Just Gary Daniels, Kenshiro is doing some training and still thinking about Julia. Have Gary showing off it, doing his splits and showing off his physique, which, is cool stuff. Kenshiro saves Bat, saying, like, crossmen are coming. Gary Daniels, I mean, he's a fine martial artist. It's just for Kenshiro, he just doesn't have the strongest voice. And unfortunately, I'd say love the man, love Gary Daniels. But for Kenshiro, you've got to be a certain kind of look and voice and everything like that. And the look is not the best. I mean, it's passable, it's okay, but the speech and the dialogue and just when he does talk, it's not great. So Chris Penn's Jackal is like, let's kill some people, after giving some like this massive speech, and they raid Paradise Valley. And it's all about Paradise Valley in this movie. You don't go far from Paradise Valley. It's all about this place. But mind you, he does say probably my favourite line of the film, where he says it ain't easy being sleazy. I thought that's a line that I just remember to this very day. And all of this is when they're sort of attacking. It's done in slow motion with epic music to show the monstrosity of what is happening. So Lin, the young girl, is in trouble, and Kenshiro can sense this. Like I mentioned, I will be fair, Chris Penn really does seem to be enjoying himself in this movie. Like he really, you can tell he's not taking it that seriously. He's sort of having a bit of a blast here. And he does have a sort of an intensity about him. Bat and Kenshiro begin to walk so they can help. For some reason, when raiding the village, the crossmen have a full-blown like guillotine as well, to which they put Lin in. And this old lady says to Jackal, please have mercy, to which he replies, touch me again and you're next, you old bitch. So this is the kind of lines that Chris Penn has to say in this movie. He's just not a nice guy. So Lin mentions like Kenshiro and is spared, as like that is who Shin is after. Kenshiro arrives and he says in his London Cockney way, they got the whole city blocked. And you think, that's not Kenshiro. That is not Kenshiro. Then we have these like seeds that Kenshiro gave Julia, saying they are the future. We then get a flashback of what Shin did to Kenshiro, putting his fingers through his chest so Julia will admit he loves him more than Kenshiro. Worth noting that I think Gary Daniels had to wear sort of condoms on his chest throughout most of the production. Like that's what the marks are. Like he's actually got sort of condoms stuck to his chest. I think he was known as sort of condom man on set or something along them lines. And should like sort of to represent his wounds. And this is like where we learn why Jackal wears with the move that he does. This is where we learn that why Jackal wears like restraints around his head as it stops because of the flashback. We learn that Gary Daniels done the move, and it's Jackal has this thing on top of his head which stops his head exploding. So, like using his pressure point technique to stop his head blowing up. Kenshiro and Bat sneak into the city. All about, as I say, it's all about Paradise Valley. That's all it's about. Bat gets stabbed by Jackal. Have to love how Gary Daniels looks so dirty and gritty, and his teeth are like sparkling white. Right? Okay, he looks really gritty. Like I say, the look is okay. It's not the best, but it's okay. But his teeth are like so white, and it's very. In movies when it's like. It's in like even Middle Ages or medieval times, or it's like times when they didn't have any oral hygiene whatsoever. They never correct the teeth ever. They'll have everything roughed up, hair, whatever, but they will never ever touch it. And it's the same here, where his face is all like dark and like he's got dirt on it and things like that. They don't do anything with his teeth, so they're just sparkling white. So Bat dies, which seems like a complete repeat of the Rufio scene from Hook. Malcolm McDowell speaks through Lynn and makes her float at one point, and like some sort of possessing her exorcist style, mentions that Ken Shador must restore balance, and you know. So Ken sends Jackal to tell Shin that the North Star flag is over Paradise Valley. This is a movie that really could have benefited from a lot more scope, and I mean a lot more scope. More locations, a different colour palette, as everything seems to be browns. Very much browns, and as well as, of course, better shot fight sequences. Like I mentioned, this could so do with a modern update. Suddenly Kenshiro's on a bike. Where and how he got this bike, I have no idea. But suddenly he's on a bike, just going to take out Shin. Then the next shot, he is on foot and he's marching towards Shin's tower. So when he breaks in, Gary Daniels, believe it or not, does actually get to show his stuff. We actually do get an okay fight scene. It's not the best, but it's okay. He does get to show his stuff. We get some amazing fast kicks and some great weapon work here. Just only one snag. The whole thing seems to be only shot from one damn angle. Like, the director's just gone, right, I've got a camera on it. Off you go, Gary. And that's it. Like, it is shot just from one angle the whole time. There's no cuts to this angle, to that angle, no sort of... And the camera's distance as well remains the same. Like, there's no variation on it at all. As I say, it's obvious the director just has no idea. Like, they could have just varied it. Have to love when a director is shooting a fight sequence who obviously has no clue how to do it, and who has obviously never seen like a Hong Kong movie in his life. Such a shame that despite all his efforts, Gary Daniels is given a pretty poor deal here, but he does get to show off. We only just see it from one side. So Kenshiro takes on Shin, who is sporting a sort of brown and yellow creamy leather vest type garment. Like, he's got all done up. He's looking all super fly at this point. Julia is trying to escape. Jackal is like keeping an eye on her. Have to love how he's like, I'm going to beat you, right? Bearing in mind how much Shin is into Julia and like he's besotted with her. Jackal's like, I'm going to beat you. I don't think that's probably the best thing to do in the world when that's sort of your boss's squeeze. It may be best to not touch her at all. Maybe not the smartest move. I mean, like I say, the guy who's playing Shin, I think his look is fine. Not perfect, but you know, it will do. Julia is able to remove Jackal's head restrainer, and Kenshiro beats the crap out of Shin, and sort of it's an instantly forgettable fight scene. It's instantly forgettable. At one point, Shin is like, Julia is dead, and he's like, she has nothing to do with this. It was all my vision. Kenshiro is like, what? She's alive? And Shin is like, no, she's dead, even though she's actually alive. And like this, like, what are you talking about? So Julia and Ken reunite, have a hug, and she has these C's, even though they were sort of dropped at one point in the movie. Camera pans out, and it's another one of them just ends kind of movie. It ends pretty much like any standard Shaw Brothers movie. It just abruptly ends. It's so bad. It is so bad. Do not get me wrong, but it's so bad it's actually watchable. If this was any random movie, it would be instantly forgettable. But the fact it is a Fist of the North Star adaptation, and I use that term very loosely, makes it worth checking out for you to make your own mind up on. Yes, it's more bad than good, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's bottom of the barrel. Is what I'm saying. I wouldn't say it's like a complete mess. There is. I think this is what I'm saying about not going hard on it. There is an effort there to sort of put Fist of the North Star on the screen. It doesn't succeed. It was a gamble. It was a risk. But they tried, as I keep saying. They gave it a go. And it was 95. This was like 4 years before The Matrix, anything like that. This was before sort of Hollywood sort of wised up to sort of how, like that Hong Kong action kind of thing. It's not a bad effort. It's not the greatest, but it's sort of passable, forgettable, but it's still watchable. Like I say, if you're a die-hard Fist of the North Star fan, you may be extremely disappointed, but give it a go. I think if you want some low-budget Kenshiro live action from sort of an American studio, and I say it's very cheap, it's very low budget, but very sci-fi channel. But go and check it out, and let me know if you've seen Fist of the North Star and what you think of it, and if you enjoy it, or if you think it's a good adaptation, let me know. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.